The first thing I noticed when I woke up was the burning in my abdomen. The second was my phone, vibrating itself off the bedside table with incoming calls. I lunged for it instinctively, then gasped as pain ripped through my fresh surgical incision. My name is Michaela, and 24 hours ago, I was rushed into emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix. Now, my phone showed 15 missed calls from my mother, Patricia. "Mom," I croaked, finally answering. The medication made my tongue feel thick. "Michaela, thank God!" Her voice crackled with hysteria. "It's Isaac. He's in the ICU. They're saying something about his blood sugar. I don't know what happened. I did everything right, I swear." The world tilted sideways. My 10-year-old son. Diabetic since age 6. I'd trusted her to manage his insulin while I was in surgery. I had no choice. My ex-husband was unreachable in Europe, and my sister Fiona was away at a conference. "Which hospital?" I demanded, already swinging my legs over the bed. "Memorial, same as you, but, honey, you can't..." I hung up and pressed the call button. A nurse appeared within seconds, probably expecting routine post-op needs. Instead, she found me attempting to stand. "Ms. Warner, you absolutely cannot..." "My son is in the ICU," I cut her off. "Diabetic emergency. I need a wheelchair, or I'm walking there myself." She must have seen something in my face because she stopped arguing. 10 minutes later, she was wheeling me through fluorescent-lit corridors, an IV pole trailing beside us. The ICU waiting room hit me with its familiar antiseptic smell. Patricia sat in a corner chair, mascara streaking her cheeks. She jumped up when she saw me. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I just panicked. You know how I get when there's pressure. The instructions were so complicated, and he was being so difficult about eating." I barely heard her. Through the ICU windows, I could see my baby boy unconscious in a bed, tubes everywhere. A doctor I didn't recognize was checking his vitals. "What happened?" I demanded. "What were his numbers?" Patricia wrung her hands. "Well, I mean, he seemed fine most of the day. Then he got really cranky and wouldn't eat dinner. I thought he was just being difficult." "His numbers." My voice didn't sound like my own. I meant to check them, but he was so argumentative, and then suddenly he just sort of collapsed." She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "This is all my fault. I should have called you sooner, but I didn't want to worry you while you were recovering." A nurse emerged from Isaac's room. She looked between us, then focused on me. "Are you the mother?" I nodded. "Your son's blood glucose dropped to dangerous levels. He's stabilizing now, but we need to know his last insulin dose and when he ate last." Patricia jumped in. "I gave him his insulin just like the instructions said. It must have been too much. Michaela, you should have written clearer instructions." The nurse's expression shifted subtly. "Ma'am, we haven't found any record of insulin administration in the logbook, and the glucometer shows no readings from today. I must have forgotten to write it down," Patricia stammered. "I was so worried about doing everything perfectly." The nurse turned away, muttering something under her breath. I caught only a fragment. "Didn't even try to check his levels." Ice spread through my veins. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. The theatrical tears, the ready excuses, the way she was already trying to shift blame onto me. "Mum," I said slowly, "where's Isaac's diabetes kit?" "In my purse, of course. I brought everything." She rummaged through her oversized bag and produced the familiar blue case. "See? I had it right here the whole time." I unzipped it with trembling hands. The test strips were unused. The logbook was blank. And the insulin vial. The insulin vial wasn't there. "Where's his insulin?" My voice was barely a whisper. What? No, it has to be. Patricia dumped her purse onto a chair. I packed everything. Unless... Oh, could it still be in your fridge? I might have forgotten to pack it this morning. But that's not my fault. You know how scattered I get when I'm worried about you, sweetie. The room started spinning, and not just from my surgical pain, because I suddenly remembered exactly where Isaac's insulin was. In my fridge, where I'd left it ready for him. Where it had apparently stayed all day while my mother had him in her care. Where it had remained, untouched, while my son's blood sugar dropped to lethal levels. I need to speak with his primary nurse, I told the ICU staff nurse as soon as Patricia left to lie down in her car. My mother's dramatic exit, complete with trembling lips and whispered prayers, had lasted 15 minutes. The nurse nodded grimly. I'll get Sarah for you. Sarah turned out to be a stern-faced woman in her 40s, who'd clearly seen enough family drama to last a lifetime. She pulled up a chair next to my wheelchair. Your son is stable now, she said without preamble. But I have some concerns about what happened today. Tell me everything. Your mother brought Isaac in around 7 p.m. He was already unconscious. When we asked about his last insulin dose, she claimed she'd given him his regular amount at breakfast and lunch. Sarah checked her notes. But we found no insulin in the diabetes kit she brought. No blood sugar readings were taken all day. The logbook was empty. My hands clenched the wheelchair armrests. Go on. When we tested him, his blood glucose was 28. That's dangerously low. This didn't happen suddenly. There would have been warning signs. Confusion, sweating, irritability. All of which she dismissed as him being difficult, I said quietly. Sarah's expression hardened. Mrs. Warner, I need to ask, did you provide clear instructions for your son's care? I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and showed her the detailed email I'd sent Patricia 3 days ago. Step-by-step insulin instructions, testing schedules, emergency contacts, everything. I even made her practice with the glucometer last week, I whispered. She said she understood everything. Sarah made a note in her tablet. And the insulin? Your mother mentioned it might be at your house? I need to check. Can someone... I'll have an aide drive you home quickly, Sarah offered. You shouldn't be moving around much anyway. The drive to my house was silent. The aide helped me inside, and I made my way straight to the kitchen. There, in the butter compartment of my fridge, was Isaac's insulin vial. Exactly where I'd left it, ready for Patricia to pack with his other supplies. Completely full, untouched. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Fiona. Just landed. Heard about Isaac. Mum's really upset. What happened? I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, Fiona burst into my kitchen, still carrying her carry-on bag. Michaela, why aren't you answering anyone's calls? Mum's beside herself. Mum's beside herself? I held up the insulin vial. Isaac could have died today because she never gave him his insulin, never even checked his blood sugar. And she's beside herself. Fiona's face fell. Oh God, but maybe she just got confused? You know how she gets when she's stressed, and with you in surgery. Stop making excuses for her, my voice cracked. She had written instructions. She had training. She had my number and the doctor's number and the emergency line. Instead of using any of those, she ignored every warning sign until my son collapsed. Keep your voice down, Fiona hissed. You're being hysterical. Mum would never intentionally what? Hurt Isaac? Like she'd never intentionally hurt us? The words spilled out before I could stop them. Like when she accidentally threw away your college acceptance letters? Or when she forgot to tell me about Dad's heart attack until after the funeral? Fiona paled. That's different. She was going through things then. She's always going through things, and we always excuse it, and she always gets away with it. I was shouting now, surgical pain forgotten. But not this time, not with my son. What are you going to do? Fiona asked quietly. Call the police? They'll never believe. They might not. But the hospital keeps records, and I'm going to get every single one. Fiona's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at me. Mum wants to know if I found you. She says she needs to talk to you about the hospital bills. Of course she does, I laughed bitterly. Let me guess. She had to go to the ER herself. Stress-induced chest pains. Fiona's silence was answer enough. I wheeled myself to the fridge and opened it again, staring at the insulin vial that should have been empty. That would have been empty if Patricia had followed even basic instructions, if she'd cared enough to try. Tell Mum. I'll talk to her soon, I said finally. I just need to rest first. Fiona left reluctantly, but not before giving me a long, worried look. She didn't understand. Not yet. But she would. Because this wasn't just about today. This was about a lifetime of manipulations and accidents and carefully crafted excuses. This was about Patricia finally facing consequences. I picked up my phone and Googled the hospital's administrative office. A man named Wilfred Santos was listed as the patient advocacy coordinator. My hands weren't shaking anymore as I dialed his number. Patricia arrived at my house the next morning, clutching a manila envelope and wearing her favourite concerned mother expression. I'd seen that look too many times to count. Sweetheart, we need to talk about these hospital bills, she said, settling herself at my kitchen table without waiting for an invitation. The stress of yesterday... Well, my heart just couldn't take it. I said nothing, just watched as she pulled out papers from the envelope. The ER doctor said my blood pressure was through the roof. They had to give me medication. She slid the bills across the table. Since this was all because of the confusion with Isaac's care instructions, I thought it would be fair if you covered these. The total was just over $3,000. Confusion with the instructions, I repeated slowly. Yes, darling. If you'd been clearer about everything. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. And now everyone's acting like I did something terrible. Your sister told me you're angry, but really, you're the one who... Stop. My voice was ice. Just stop. Excuse me? I'm not paying your bills, Mum. In fact, I think you should leave. Patricia's face shifted, the mask of concern cracking slightly. After everything I've done for you, I dropped everything to help when you needed surgery. I spent all day taking care of Isaac. Taking care of him? I pulled out my phone. Should we go through your social media posts from yesterday? The 3 hours you spent commenting on Facebook while my son's blood sugar was dropping? You're monitoring my Facebook? That's invasive, she clutched her chest dramatically. My own daughter spying on me. The gesture triggered a memory. I was 12, caught her reading my diary. When I confronted her, she'd had the same reaction, clutching her chest, tears springing to her eyes, turning my accusation into an attack on her. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my house. Now. She stood, gathering her papers with trembling hands. I'm going to send a message to the family group chat. Everyone needs to know how you're treating me after I tried to help. Go ahead. I met her eyes. Tell them whatever you want. But first, you should know I have a meeting with the hospital administrator this afternoon about the incident report. Patricia froze. What incident report? The one detailing your gross negligence as Isaac's caregiver, including timestamps of when you ignored his symptoms, when you failed to check his blood sugar, and when you delayed calling emergency services. You wouldn't dare. Her voice had lost its tremor. I'm your mother. Yes, you are. And that's exactly why I'm doing this. She left without another word, slamming the door hard enough to rattle windows. Within minutes, My phone was buzzing with notifications from the family group chat. "Your cousin, Olive, just called," Fiona texted separately. "Mum's telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown and threatening her. What's going on?" I ignored it, focusing instead on preparing for my meeting with Wilfred Santos. My documentation was organised chronologically. Patricia's text messages, her social media timestamps, Isaac's medical records from yesterday. The hospital administrator's office was quiet when I arrived. Wilfred, a serious man in his 50s, reviewed my materials without comment. "Ms. Warner," he said finally, "there seems to be a concerning pattern here. Your mother's account of events doesn't match our records." "I know." He tapped a particular page. "According to this, she told the EMTs she'd been regularly checking his blood sugar, but there are no readings recorded. And this timestamp." He frowned. "She claimed she called 911 immediately when he lost consciousness, but these social media posts show she was online for almost 40 minutes after the time she said he collapsed. Yes, we take caregiver negligence very seriously." He made a note in his computer, "especially with juvenile diabetes patients. Would you like to file a formal complaint?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. A new message in the family group chat from Patricia. Heartbroken that my own daughter would accuse me of harming my grandson when I was only trying to help during her surgery. "Please pray for Michaela. She's clearly not thinking clearly after her operation. I've already forgiven her because that's what mothers do." I showed the message to Wilfred. "Yes," I said, "I want to file that complaint, and I'd like copies of all the medical records from yesterday. Every note, every timestamp, every inconsistency in her story." He nodded gravely. "There's something else you should see. A discrepancy in the timing that suggests this wasn't just forgetting or confusion. There may have been intentional delay in seeking help." I thought of Isaac unconscious in that ICU bed, of Patricia's theatrical tears, of 3 decades of similar manipulations. "Show me everything," I said. Dr. Glenn Hopkins found me in the hospital cafeteria, picking at a sandwich while reviewing the documents Wilfred had provided. He pulled up a chair without asking. "I operated on you 2 days ago," he said by way of introduction. "And I was on call when your son was brought in yesterday." I straightened up. "How is he?" "Recovering well. But that's not why I'm here." He placed a tablet on the table. "The nurses brought some concerns to my attention about the circumstances leading to his admission." "What kind of concerns?" "We have audio recordings from the nurses' station, standard procedure for emergency admissions." He tapped the tablet. "I think you should hear this." He pressed play. A familiar voice filled the air. "Patricia's, recorded sometime yesterday afternoon." "He's just being dramatic," her voice crackled through the speaker. "He always gets like this if he doesn't eat." A nurse's voice responded, "Ma'am, if he's showing signs of low blood sugar, we need to check his levels immediately. Do you have his testing kit?" "Oh, he's fine. He's just trying to get attention. I'll give him something if he passes out." Dr. Hopkins stopped the recording. My hands were shaking so hard I had to put down my sandwich. "There's more," he said quietly. "The time stamps match what Mr. Santos found. Your mother waited almost an hour after this conversation before calling emergency services." "She wanted him to pass out," I whispered. She wanted—" "We can't prove intent," he cautioned. "But as his physician, I'm deeply concerned about the level of negligence shown here, especially given his age and condition." My phone buzzed. Fiona again. "Can we talk? Privately?" "Excuse me," I told Dr. Hopkins, stepping away to take the call. "What do you want, Fiona?" "I talked to Mom," she said hesitantly, "about what really happened yesterday." "And?" She said some things. About Isaac, about how much attention his diabetes requires." Fiona's voice dropped. "She said she wanted to teach you a lesson about making everything about him." The world tilted sideways. What? She didn't mean for him to get so sick. She just thought if he had a small scare, you'd realise how much stress you put on her with all the detailed instructions and constant checking. I ended the call without responding. Dr. Hopkins was still waiting at the table, concern etched on his face. "Doctor," I said, sitting back down, "I need copies of everything. The audio, the admission records, the nurse's notes, all of it." He nodded. "I thought you might. I've already asked records to prepare a complete file." He paused. "There's something else. Your mother came by this morning, trying to access Isaac's medical records. She was claiming to be his primary caregiver. She's not. She has no legal right. We know. We denied access. But she made quite a scene. Posted something on social media about it, actually." I pulled out my phone. Sure enough, there was a new post from Patricia, devastated that the hospital is keeping me from checking on my precious grandson. After everything I've done for my family, to be treated like an outsider, but God sees how they're hurting me, and I forgive them. Pray for my family, unconditional love. The post already had dozens of sympathetic comments. "I need to show you something else," Dr. Hopkins said, pulling up another file. "Your mother's ER visit from that night, the one she's billing you for." He turned the tablet toward me. "Notice anything strange about the timing?" I scanned the admission record. The timestamp showed she'd checked into the ER for stress-induced chest pains at 6:43 p.m. Isaac wasn't admitted until 7:15 p.m. She went to the ER for herself before even calling an ambulance for Isaac? My voice sounded strange in my ears. "It gets worse," Dr. Hopkins said grimly. "The ER notes show she was posting on social media from the waiting room about her own medical emergency while your son was still unconscious at her house." I stood up so abruptly my chair scraped across the floor. "I need to make some calls. Ms. Warner?" Dr. Hopkins caught my arm. "Whatever you're planning, just know you have the hospital's full support. What happened to your son wasn't an accident or a mistake. It was negligence at best, and at worst. At worst, it was intentional," I finished. "And I'm going to prove it." My phone buzzed again. Another family group chat notification. Patricia was sharing a link to her latest social media post, this one detailing her harrowing medical emergency and how some people were trying to twist her story. I smiled grimly. Let her keep posting. Every word, every timestamp, every carefully crafted lie was just more evidence for what was coming. My dining room table looked like a detective's investigation board. Hospital records, screenshots, timestamps, and nurses' notes spread out in careful, chronological order. Each piece of evidence was a nail in Patricia's carefully constructed coffin of lies. "This is intense," my cousin Olive said, examining the timeline I'd created. "But necessary. What she did to Isaac. I'd called Olive because she ran a popular parenting blog. She understood social media, understood how to present information in a way that couldn't be dismissed or twisted." "Look at this." I pointed to a series of timestamps. "While Isaac was experiencing dangerous symptoms, she posted 3 memes, commented on 12 photos, and shared a recipe for banana bread." Olive took photos of my documentation. "And here's her first hospital post, time-stamped before she even called 911 for Isaac. She needed to establish her victim narrative early," I said bitterly. "Set up her medical emergency before anyone knew about Isaac." My phone buzzed. Another group message from Patricia. "Spending another sleepless night praying for healing in our family. Sometimes the people we love most hurt us deepest. But a mother's love never fails. Family first. Unconditional. Love." Olive read over my shoulder. "She's good. I'll give her that. Building public sympathy, making herself the victim. She's had decades of practice." "Well," Olive said, pulling out her laptop, Let's see how her narrative holds up against cold, hard facts. She started typing. We'll write a blog post. No names, no direct accusations, just a detailed account of a caregiver's dangerous negligence with a diabetic child. Will that be enough? Trust me, my readers include every mum's group in 3 counties. Once this story starts circulating, people will connect the dots themselves. We worked for hours, carefully crafting the post. Every detail was verified by hospital records. Every timestamp backed by screenshots. The story was devastating in its simplicity. A trusted caregiver ignoring a child's medical needs while documenting their own social media presence. Done, Olive said finally. Want to read it before I post? I scanned the draft. It was perfect, clinical enough to be legally safe, detailed enough to be damning. Post it! While we waited for the blog to go live, I sorted through more evidence. A nurse's note about Patricia refusing to check Isaac's blood sugar because he's just seeking attention. A security camera timestamp showing her leaving him alone in the car while she went into the ER for herself. Her own social media posts documenting her movements while my son lay unconscious. It's up, Olive announced. Now we wait. We didn't wait long. Within an hour, the post had hundreds of shares. Comments flooded in. What kind of monster ignores a child's medical needs? Those timestamps are damning. Someone needs to be held accountable. Then came the local mum group messages. Isn't this about Patricia? The timing matches her posts. OMG, I just checked. All her social media posts line up exactly. No wonder she's been posting all those pray for me messages. My phone rang. Fiona, have you seen what's being shared? She demanded. Mum's hysterical. She says you're trying to destroy her reputation. No, I replied calmly. I'm just telling the truth, with evidence. But people are already talking about reporting her to Adult Protective Services for her other grandchildren. Her friends are unfriending her. The church committee is discussing her position. Actions have consequences, Fiona. Even Mum's. After hanging up, I turned to Olive. Think she'll show up at the Women's League meeting tomorrow? Oh, she'll be there, Olive confirmed. It's her favourite audience. All those sympathetic ears. Good. I patted the manila envelope I'd prepared. Because I'll be there too, with copies of everything. My phone lit up with another notification. Patricia had posted again. Heartbroken to discover vicious lies being spread about me. Satan is truly testing my faith, but I know the truth will prevail. Prayer warrior, shit warrior truth will out. Olive snorted. The truth will prevail all right, just not the version she's selling. I gathered my evidence into neat stacks, each one labelled and dated. Tomorrow, Patricia would face her carefully cultivated social circle with more than just tears and dramatic posts. She'd face facts, timestamps, records, reality. You know she'll try to spin this, Olive warned. She'll play the victim card hard. Let her try. I sealed the last envelope. The difference is, this time I have proof. And tomorrow, everyone will see it. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Dr. Hopkins. Records office confirms all documentation is certified. Good luck tomorrow. I smiled. After decades of manipulation, Patricia was about to learn that some things couldn't be explained, away with tears and social media posts. Some things demanded consequences. The Women's League met every Thursday at the community centre. I arrived early, setting a manila envelope on each chair. Patricia's usual spot, front and centre, got one too. Michaela? Fiona's voice made me turn. What are you doing here? Attending a meeting, I said calmly, just like Mum always encouraged us to do. Those envelopes. She picked one up, started to open it. I'd wait, I advised. Mum should be here for this. The room filled quickly. I recognized most of the faces, women who'd watched me grow up, who'd believed Patricia's stories for years. They whispered among themselves, glancing between me and the envelopes. Patricia swept in at exactly 10 a.m., wearing her favorite blue dress and martyred expression. She froze when she saw me. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, voice trembling perfectly. "Haven't you caused enough trouble? Please." I gestured to her usual seat. "Sit down, Mum. I think it's time for some truth." The room fell silent as everyone opened their envelopes. Inside each was a timeline, supporting documents, and a simple letter explaining what had happened to Isaac. "Ladies," I said, standing at the front, "I know my mother has shared her version of recent events with many of you. Now I'd like to share mine, with proof." Patricia jumped up. "This is slander. I won't sit here and—" "Your social media posts," I continued calmly. "Your hospital admission time, the nurse's station recordings. It's all there." "She's trying to destroy me." Patricia's voice rose dramatically. "After everything I've done for her. For Isaac." "For Isaac?" a new voice cut in. Linda, a retired nurse who'd been quiet until now, stood up with her papers. "Patricia, according to these records, you went to the ER for yourself before even calling an ambulance for your unconscious grandson." Murmurs rippled through the room. That's out of context," Patricia sputtered. "I was under tremendous stress." "Tremendous stress that didn't stop you from posting memes?" someone else asked us. "While your grandson was in medical distress?" Patricia turned to her closest allies, women who'd supported her for years. But they were all reading, faces growing harder with each page. "These timestamps," Margaret from the church committee said slowly. "You were on Facebook making comments about your neighbour's garden while Isaac's blood sugar was dropping to dangerous levels." "You don't understand." Patricia's mask was cracking. "Michaela makes everything about Isaac's diabetes. She's obsessed. I was trying to teach her." "Teach me what, Mom?" My voice cut through her protests. "That my son's life-threatening medical condition is an inconvenience to you. That you'd risk his life to prove a point." "Risk his—" Patricia clutched her chest, a familiar gesture that no longer held power. "I would never. You're twisting everything." "The nurse's recording," I said quietly. "Play it, Mom. Let everyone hear you dismiss his symptoms. Let them hear you say you'd give him something if he passes out." Linda stood again. "As a medical professional, what I'm reading here isn't just negligence. It's deliberate disregard for a child's life-threatening condition." "I'm calling an emergency committee meeting," Margaret announced. "Patricia, your positions on the church council and charity board will need to be reviewed." Patricia looked around wildly but found no sympathy. These women had children and grandchildren of their own. They understood exactly what she'd done. "Fiona," she cried desperately, tell them how your sister is unstable, how she's always been jealous of my relationship with Isaac." But Fiona was staring at the hospital records, face pale. "You went to the ER first?" she whispered. "Before calling 911 for Isaac?" Patricia's composure finally shattered. "Fine!" she shrieked. "You want the truth? Isaac's diabetes takes all the attention. Every visit, every holiday, every phone call. It's all about his schedule, his needs. I just wanted one day where everything wasn't about him." The room went deadly quiet. "Well, Mom," I said into the silence, "you got your wish. Now everything's about you again. Just like you wanted." She fled the room, mascara streaming, but there were no sympathetic eyes following her exit, only shocked, disgusted faces processing what they'd heard. Margaret approached me. "We'll be removing her from all committees immediately, and I believe several of us owe you an apology for believing her stories all these years." I gathered my remaining documents. I'm not doing this for apologies. I'm doing it because some things can't be hidden behind social media posts and crocodile tears anymore. As I left, my phone buzzed. A message from Patricia's lawyer. Your mother intends to sue for defamation. I smiled grimly. Let her try. Every word I'd shared was documented, verified, and absolutely true. The time for stories was over. Now was the time for consequences. The hospital conference room felt too small for the number of people gathered. Patricia's lawyer sat across from me, flanked by my mother and Fiona. My own lawyer calmly arranged documents, while Wilfred Santos and Dr. Hopkins settled into chairs beside us. This defamation suit is groundless, my lawyer opened. Every statement made by my client is supported by hospital records and documentation. Patricia's lawyer leaned forward. My client maintains that her daughter has maliciously twisted events to damage her reputation. Play the recording, I interrupted. Dr. Hopkins connected his tablet to the room's speakers. Patricia's voice filled the air. He's just being dramatic. I'll give him something if he passes out. Patricia's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. My client was under extreme stress, which didn't prevent her from maintaining an active social media presence during the incident, Wilfred interjected, sliding forward a timeline. We've documented over 30 online interactions during the period when the child was showing severe symptoms. Furthermore, Dr. Hopkins added, hospital records show Mrs. Patricia admitted herself to the ER for alleged stress symptoms before calling emergency services for her grandson. Patricia burst out, This is character assassination. I have given everything to this family. Mrs. Patricia, Wilfred cut in, the hospital has opened an internal inquiry into your actions as a caregiver. Our findings are concerning. He produced a thick folder. We have evidence of gross negligence, deliberate disregard of medical instructions, and delayed emergency response. The hospital's liability team has recommended we formally document these findings to protect ourselves from potential litigation. Patricia's lawyer paled slightly. What exactly does that mean? It means, my lawyer explained, that if you pursue this defamation suit, the hospital will be forced to publicly detail every aspect of your client's negligence, every timestamp, every ignored warning sign, every social media post made while her grandson was in medical distress. Fiona, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Mum, please, stop this. You can't win. Can't win, Patricia's voice rose hysterically. I'm the victim here. Everyone's turned against me because of her lies. What lies? Dr. Hopkins asked quietly. The audio recordings? The time-stamped photos of you at the ER? Your own social media posts? The hospital, Wilfred added, will be adding a formal note to our records. Gross caregiver negligence resulting in life-threatening medical emergency. That's not an accusation, Mrs. Patricia. That's a documented fact. Patricia turned to her lawyer. They can't do this. Make them stop. But her lawyer was already gathering papers. Mrs. Patricia, I recommend we withdraw the suit. The evidence against you is substantial. The blog post, Patricia tried one last angle. That horrible story my niece wrote. Contains no names, my lawyer countered. Just verified facts about a medical emergency. Your daughter hasn't defamed you, Mrs. Patricia. You've done that yourself. The meeting ended quickly after that. Patricia's lawyer practically fled, leaving my mother sitting there, shoulders slumped, her carefully constructed world crumbling. The hospital recommends, Wilfred said gently but firmly, that you not attempt to serve as a caregiver for any diabetic patients in the future. We'll be noting this in your family medical records. Outside the conference room, Fiona caught my arm. What happens now? Now? I checked my phone. 3 messages from Olive. Local mum groups were removing Patricia as a member. The church committee had officially terminated her positions. Her social circle was dissolving. Now, karma happens. She'll be all alone, Fiona whispered. No, I corrected. She'll be exactly where her actions have led her. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. A message from Patricia. I'm your mother. You can't do this to me. Family forgives. I showed the message to Fiona. See? Still no acknowledgement. Still no real remorse. Just manipulation. Fiona nodded slowly. I see it now. I think I've always seen it. I was just too scared to admit it. Dr. Hopkins approached with final papers for me to sign. The hospital's investigation is complete. Everything's documented, filed, and legally binding. Thank you, I said, for believing me, for helping prove the truth. The truth, he replied, proved itself. We just provided the paperwork. As I left the hospital, another message from Patricia popped up. You'll regret this. Everyone will see what a vindictive daughter you are. I deleted it without responding. Let her rage, let her plot, let her try to spin new stories. Because this time, there was no spinning the truth, no rewriting reality, no manipulating facts into fiction. This time, there was only consequence. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Olive. The Women's League just voted. Unanimous decision. Your mother's membership is permanently revoked. I smiled. Karma wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was just the quiet collapse of a carefully constructed facade, leaving nothing but truth in its wake. Isaac's bedroom door creaked as I checked on him one final time before bed. He was testing his blood sugar, meticulous as always since the incident. All good? I asked. 120, he reported proudly. Right in range. I sat on the edge of his bed, watching as he carefully logged the number. No detail forgotten, no reading skipped. My brave, responsible boy. My phone buzzed, Fiona calling. I almost declined, but Isaac nodded encouragingly. It's okay, Mum. I know she's trying. Hey, I answered, stepping into the hallway. I just dropped off Mum's mail, Fiona said. She's not doing well. Most of her friends have blocked her. The community centre rejected her volunteer application. She keeps saying she'll make everyone see the truth, but... She paused. I think she's finally realising there's no coming back from this. Has she admitted what she did? No. She still claims she was overwhelmed, confused, misunderstood. But no one believes her anymore. Not even me. Through Isaac's door, I could hear him humming while preparing his nighttime insulin dose. No fear, no hesitation, just quiet confidence in managing his own care. I got another letter from her lawyer today, I told Fiona. Oh God, not another lawsuit threat. No, a cease and desist order. She wants me to stop spreading rumours about her to potential employers and social groups. But you haven't been... Exactly. She doesn't understand that she did this to herself. Her own actions, her own words, her own posts, they're all still out there telling the real story. A notification popped up. Olive sharing a screenshot. Patricia had tried creating a new social media account to rejoin local mum groups. They'd identified her within hours. Remember when we were kids? Fiona asked quietly. How she'd always make us apologise for things we didn't do. How she'd twist everything until we doubted ourselves. Not anymore, I said firmly. That's why I didn't just get angry or cut contact. I needed everyone to see the truth, with proof. The truth, Fiona echoed. It's funny. All those years, she controlled the narrative. One document, one recording, one timeline. That's all it took to break her power. Isaac appeared in the doorway, pyjama-clad and yawning. Mum, can you check my injection site? Coming, honey. To Fiona, I said, I have to go. Wait, one more thing. Mom's trying to organise a family reunion. Says it's time for healing and moving forward as a family. I laughed softly. Let me guess. She's already playing victim about who doesn't RSVP. Something like that. Well, she can plan whatever she wants. Isaac and I won't be there. I know. Fiona sighed. I won't either. That's what I called to tell you. I'm done pretending. After hanging up, I helped Isaac check his injection site and tucked him in. On his nightstand sat his diabetes kit, organised, accessible, properly maintained. No confusion, no negligence, no excuses. Mom, he asked as I turned off the light. Are you sad about Grandma? I considered the question carefully. I'm sad about who I wished she could be, but I'm not sad about standing up to who she really is. Good, he said simply, because I like us better now. No more walking on eggshells. My phone buzzed again, a final message from Patricia. I'm still your mother. You can't erase that. Family is forever. I showed it to Isaac. What do you think? He read it thoughtfully. I think family is what you make it, and we make a pretty good one. Yes, I smiled, we do. Downstairs, I could see Patricia's latest certified letter on the counter, probably containing more threats or guilt trips or demands for apologies. It could wait until morning, or forever, because Isaac was right. We made a pretty good family, one built on truth, not manipulation, on responsibility, not excuses, on real love, not controlled affection. My phone lit up with one more notification. Olive had posted a new blog entry. Update on the diabetic child story. How one mother's stand against negligence changed a community. The first comment below it was from Linda, the retired nurse. Some people think karma has to be dramatic. Sometimes it's just the simple truth. Finally, set free. I turned off my phone and headed to bed, leaving Patricia's unread letter on the counter. Let her write her letters. Let her plan her reunions. Let her try to rewrite history. The truth was already out there, documented and undeniable. And the truth, as it turned out, was the most powerful revenge of all. Upstairs, Isaac's soft breathing filled the quiet house. Safe, protected, free from manipulation. We both were.